In the previous section, we looked at how to build queries. We looked at building simple queries and more complex queries. We looked at aggregation. But there is an issue with queries, and that comes down to the fact that whenever something changes inside of our database, that query that we originally had is no longer going to be correct. So for example, I have an array of data here that fits a particular query that I've run, and it's returned 12 results from my database. But these 12 results will always be like this until I run a new query to check whether it's still correct. So for example, if Tommy here, if his attributes were changed somehow, let's say the user changed them, or it was automatically changed, or something else happened that interacted with Tommy's object that changed it, the numbers may now no longer fit within this filter. And maybe, for example, Tommyson and a couple of the other items here changed as well. How would I know that that query is still valid? Well, the only way we'd be able to know is to rerun it, is to rerun the function or whatever returned this object. We'd have to run it again. And it adds a manual process that we might either forget to do or do incorrectly. There's a process there that we might miss. So what ideally we need is a way to be alerted in real time whenever the query like this one changes in some way. And that's where we can introduce live queries. Live queries, as an overview, enables you to subscribe to any query that you've built. It'll provide you with direct feedback whenever something is added or changed from that query. Whenever you subscribe to a query, there will be events if something happens. So if a new record is added or changed or updated, removed, whatever might happen, you will receive information that you can use in your application. And again, this particular section has been covered with a number of different videos from Nicholas. So once you've finished with my video, I'd recommend pausing the course and taking a look through this to get more information on how live queries will work for you. Behind the scenes, a lot of work has been put into making this as easy as possible to use for you, because we're maintaining a WebSocket connection to the Moralis live query server. And in most cases, you won't need to deal with the WebSocket connection directly. You can use our standard functionality and reap the rewards from what we've built for you. So the first video is how you would create a subscription, how you would simply build a query, whatever query it might be, and then subscribe to it using the subscribe method. The subscription is an event emitter, so you'll get live query events. And the first time that you call this subscribe method will automatically open the WebSocket connection to that live query server for you. And as soon as it runs, you will begin receiving events, which means you'll need to provide some form of event handling. Now, there are a number of different events. There's open and create, there's update, enter and leave, and also delete and close. Now, they might sound a bit confusing, so I'll try and break them down to be as simple and straightforward as possible. Creating an event. Now that will fire whenever a record is added to the database that would match whatever query that you're subscribing to. Okay, so assume your database is empty and you've now added a record that matches the query. That would be in a create event. And to handle that, you would write a piece of code like this, subscription on, and then create. You get an object that you can use, and then handle that however you want to. That's creating. That's when a new record is added. Updating, that's whenever a row that matches your query is edited. So it already has to exist, it's just been changed. The enter event, now that's whenever an existing record that didn't match the query previously now does match the query. So there was an item in the database before, it didn't match the query, but now it's been edited and it does match the query. So it's now entered the query. And again, you get an object back for that. Leave is the opposite to enter. So you've already got some items in your database that do or did match the previous query, but now they've been edited and they've left the query. So the data still appears in the database, it just doesn't match the query anymore. That would be a leave event. Delete event is simply you had a piece of data that matched the query previously, it's now been deleted, you get a delete event. And the close event happens whenever the WebSocket connection to the live query server is lost. Each one of those events, apart from close event, will provide you with an object that you can use and handle however you need to. If you need to unsubscribe and stop receiving events from a Moralis query, then you can use the unsubscribe method. If you need to manually close the WebSocket connection to the live query server, then you can use the close method. Just be aware that it does cancel the auto connect and it unsubscribes all subscriptions based on it. To reset everything up, you'll need to call subscribe again, and that will create a new WebSocket connection to the live query server. You can set up a server URL to the live query server. Most of the time you don't need to do that. But if you need to, this is how you would do that. And if you get stuck with this, you can always open up a ticket in the forum. Now, when it comes to the WebSocket status, you are given access to 3 events to help you monitor everything. You don't specifically get any object back, but you can just handle the event however you need to. Whenever a new connection is established to the live query server, you'll get access to the open event. You could use this as an example. Losing connection, you can use this event. And the error event does provide you with an object that you can use. So that'll help you manage your WebSocket connection. And similar to before, where you could set up your server if you wanted to separately, there is an advanced API that you can use. I mean, our standard API is most suitable for the majority of cases. But in more advanced cases, like having multiple live query servers, we've exposed the live query client for those scenarios. And that's basically a wrapper of the standard WebSocket client. It requires Moralis, Moralis.liveQueryClient, and then you can create a new instance of that. You'll need to provide some server-specific information, and the details are down here. I'm running the open method. We'll send a connection request to the live query server. When you use the subscribe method, in this way, the query is mandatory for whichever query you want to subscribe to. You can pass a session token if you wish, and if that particular session does meet the access control list, then updates are available. And because the Moralis server is a fork of the Parse server, you can find out more about the live query protocol by following that link there. And the subscription that you get will be exactly the same as if you use the standard API, which you're probably going to be using most of the time. Unsubscribe method and the close method, similar to before. And the event handling is much the same as before as well. We always try and maintain an open WebSocket connection. So whenever a connection is lost to the live query server, Moralis server will automatically try to reconnect. Reconnect happens as standard. But of course, if you use either of the close methods, then that auto connect function is cancelled. Using the standard API, we automatically send the session token to the live query server whenever you create a new subscription. It'll be the session token of the current user by default. For the advanced API, you can set any session token. There's just a little bit of extra management. You'll need to be aware that when you log out or the session token is invalid, you'd need to unsubscribe from the subscription and subscribe again. Otherwise, there's a potential security issue. But like before, that's for the advanced API. With the standard API, the session token is generally handled for you.